Welcome to another episode of the Six Figure Roadmap. I'm here with Dana Malstaff, Dana Banana. I just got the permission to call her. I'm excited to have her. We were introduced a long time ago, and I've just been watching the things that you've been doing, the content you've been creating, the community that you keep cultivating, and I'm just awestruck because my business partner and I are always talking about how one of the biggest markets out there is like stay-at-home moms and single moms, and how they're always looking for another source of revenue to put food on the table, to provide experiences for their household. And it's something that we strive to accommodate as well. And I love it. And I'm super excited to have you here. So I want to introduce you to the audience. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah, the amount of women that have advanced degrees, were six-figure earners, and then came to be a mom and wanted to be with their kids, but still have the brain of a six-figure earner. It's a ridiculous amount. And then they don't know what to do with themselves. Like imagine, even man, woman, it doesn't matter. Like imagine knowing that your brain works. Like you see a whiteboard and you want to solve a problem, or you want to fix something. Like that's why I feel like YouTube got so big, because all of these really smart people that became parents were like, I got to build something. I gotta solve something, or I'm gonna go crazy, because you can only play Legos for so long.
I love that. And you saw that opportunity and created a place for people to come and meet each other and learn from each other, learn from you, and get access to the knowledge that you have, because you are a mom and you do have the mind of a six-figure earner. And I want to ask you, do you remember what it was like when you made your first six figures as an entrepreneur after you became a mom?
I do, and then I think I brushed it aside for my next goal. Do you ever do that? Where you're like, people are like, did you relish in it? And you're like, no. I was like, that's not enough. It's not enough. But yeah, I remember. I remember the very first time I opened up to had a program, opened up our group coaching program. And I had 500 people on my email list, and maybe a couple hundred people in the Boss Mom community, like our Facebook group that's now 42,000. And I closed $36,000 of women coming in like a 4-week period. And it was amazing. And then I, realized I had to then do the work to actually help those women over the next 6 months, which brought me right into the mode where most consultants and service providers are, which is we never get to enjoy the money we make, because we're always trying to make the next month, the next 6 months sense of money. So like the real business you want in a six-figure business is the kind that works while you sleep, where you don't make the money and then immediately have to put out effort in order to earn what you've just made. That's the goal, I think, for business owners, should be that you get increased input of finances without increased exporting of your effort.
Yeah, that is absolutely one of the most critical pieces of building a business. We're actually in that stage right now where we're like looking to level up, and we're bringing people on our team, and we're having to create a bunch of SOPs and make sure that we have it all. Like people know what they need to do. Joys that people just don't understand at first. Usually they just don't look into what comes after that. And like you said, you're not enjoying it as much at first until you learn that, oh man, I actually have to do this stuff in order to maintain my revenue over time.
Yeah. And I think it's really important too that so the third book I wrote was called Climb Your Own Ladder, Become the CEO of Your Own Business. And I want to tell everybody that's listening, you can't skip those steps. You just can't those steps. And anybody that you see online that looks like a 20-year-old that tells you, I help become, make people 7-figure business earners. And then anybody who's been in the business is like, you look 12. How is it possible that you know these things? Those people still did a ton of work. They just started when they were 15 or did something. Like nobody, it doesn't matter. You cannot skip the learning steps. Wisdom is not something that is handed to you in a book. Wisdom is something that is earned. And it takes time and it takes failure. Failure is not just like we need to learn to fail. Like everybody gives those quotes that are like, we need to fail and we need to own it. Like failure is not an option. Like it's just it. Like you cannot learn without failure. Like if all we did was succeed, it does not make us any better. Like the only things that make us better is failure. So that's why everybody says fail often and fail fast, because You could get where you want to go faster. You can get to the 6 figures and beyond faster if you fail faster. But everybody's got to fall on their face. Like everybody has to work too hard and stay up till 4 a.m. and then accidentally book too many clients and then try and deliver and then mess something up and then have somebody want a refund and then try a launch and have it fail. And like everybody's story is so funny because it's exactly the same. We all have the exact same story with just in little variances. And so just yearn to have the same failure path as the people that have really big successful businesses, and you're on the right track.
So interesting. I'm curious, after just hearing you say that and all the things we've just been talking about that happened after you hit that benchmark, how were you helping all of these moms implement that into their life, which you have all this craziness over here with your kids they're expected as a mother, and then you have all this craziness over here and all the things your customers are expecting of you as a business owner. How do you bring those two together and kind of like limit the amount of stress and stuff that comes from that?
Yeah, well, I think I'm not the only, whether you're a mom or not, focus has got to be is always the thing, right? Like success is not in the things you do, it's success is the things you say no to. So the real strategy is, how do you figure out what's important? Like that's what really successful people do, is they decide what's important, and that's the only thing they focus on. And the really massively successful people say no to a lot of things. The true 6-figure, 7-figure earner says no to a lot of stuff. And that's the thing that women have the hardest time doing, because we want to be so helpful. So we want to say yes to everybody. I have a really popular podcast episode called Don't Be Helpful, Be Impactful. Because being helpful is a waste of time. And what I mean by that is, the people that we yearn to help the most, they're usually what we call the ideal client scale. So there's the person that it's the very bottom, and they're the person that you see needs you the most. They need you to solve that problem that you want to solve, like something fierce, and you can see it, but they don't have the emotional, financial, or time resources to actually implement anything you say. So they're going to tell you you're awesome, but they're never going to get results, and they're never going to pay you. But we spend all our time there because they're the person that needs us the most. The really smart entrepreneur is the one that says, you know what, I'm going to skip to the person that's one gap away from getting the maximum amount of results that I can give them, and I'm going to market to that person. And when I have all the resources I have, then I'm going to start being more charitable with some of my resources on a very limited basis, so that I can be helpful to those people I want to be helpful without actually making it difficult for me to run a successful business. And that's really what we have to teach women, moms, men, everybody alike. I think women do it more because we want to be helpful, but that's what we have to do, is we have to show you how can we focus not just on the things that you do, so you're not wasting a bunch of time on social media in the wrong way, which is when it's something I see a lot. We can totally talk about some tactics to stop wasting time on social media, because it's almost everybody gets a bum rap. Like, Facebook's terrible. And I'm like, you're using it wrong. Instagram sucks. You're using it wrong. Like, it's not the platform. It's you. We've got to show you how to use it right. So that focus of what to work on, what not to work on, what to create and what not to create, how to really understand you're solving a problem and not solving a problem, because we're in this weird space these days where back in the day you would go into a bank or to investors and you would say, I have this problem to solve. I have this business plan. This is how I'm going to make money. This is what the market share is going to be. And all this research was done to say, this is how I'm going to solve this problem. And now what we find is people are going, this is the life I want to lead. How can I do something that allows me to live that life? And so we're not starting with the problem. We're starting with the life we want and then trying to fill it with what problem could we solve to give me that life. It's totally can work that way, but it creates this gap where we don't do the right kind of planning and focus to make sure that we're actually only doing the things to solve that problem to get us the result that we want.
I think that's a perfect segue into what you call systematic loyalty.
Yeah.
Because, and guys, don't worry, we're going to get into how to stop wasting time on social media. I know she kind of slipped that in there as something we're going to touch on. That's coming.
It all works actually with systematic loyalty. It'll solve that problem at the same time.
Perfect. Well, why don't you elaborate on what that means and how you one, have created that for yourself and how you help others do the same for themselves.
Yeah, well, we all know what shiny object syndrome is, right? It's a thing everybody claims, and some people wear it with a badge of honor. A lot of people say I'm multi-passionate, and then they're like, nobody can tell me I can't be multi-passionate. I, like a lot of things. Yes, I totally get it. You don't have to stop liking a lot of things in order to be a focused business owner, right? And when we really think about businesses and how we make money, we want to have people that come back time and time again. And our best marketing strategy is to get people to share our content, share who we are, and perpetuate our ideas and our brand, right? So especially nowadays, because grassroots marketing is so important. All advertisers, the big companies are coming in and going, how can we get grassroots? Because people are shutting off ads, they're turning things off, they're paying the extra fee so they don't see commercials. All of those things are happening. So this grassroots marketing has to start, is really becoming the big thing, which means everybody here who's trying to start, and get to that 6-figure mark, you're in the perfect position because you are the micro influencer. You can have a group of 100, 200, 500, a couple thousand people that you're off everybody else's radar. So nobody's truly competing with you in this particular space. And it gives you this opportunity to be micro famous, which is really great. The problem is that people are out there just trying to sell stuff, right? And if your business is just selling stuff and you don't create a sense of community, you don't have to actually create a physical community. Like Apple has no online presence, y'all, and they have a very big sense of community. There is no, there's millions of people following the Apple Facebook page, and I don't think they've ever posted anything ever, right? But you have to create a sense of community so that people feel like they belong. Loyalty is when somebody feels so intimately, emotionally connected to something that they get angry when that thing is attacked, right? So you want a brand where if somebody came out and said something mean about you, that before you even have a chance to, a crap ton of people are coming out defending you. Like that's the kind of loyalty that you want. And it's based around giving people a sense of belonging. So the way you create a sense of belonging, which really is a trust that's built up, right? If we want to simple, bring it down to a simple word, it's trust. And the way that you get people to trust you is based off of 2 factors. One, that they believe that you feel like their voice is important, right? So they feel like they are, the value that they add to whatever you're building is valuable, is important. And 2, that they feel protected, which means if they're going to protect you when it comes time, then you have to protect them. And the way that we do that in our brands is through consistency, right? People think, oh, consistency, I'm going to post all the time, I'm going to do stuff. But if you add, just same way as a parent, that's why I love parenting and business as an analogy, right? Is that if you just let your kids do anything, then because you don't want to discipline them, right? Then you have kids that don't trust whatever you say because you could go either way. They don't know what to expect from you, right? Kids want to have an understanding of what their boundaries are. Communities that you have want to understand what to expect from you, which means the more consistent you are with what you say and how you say it, then the easier it is for people to trust you because they know what they're going to get from you and they know what you're going to say. They know how you're going to act. They know how to interact with you, and it creates a familiarity, but it also creates a sense of trust, a sense of protection for them, right? If you have an actual physical online community, then it's going to manifest itself in protecting the rules of that community, right? We actually don't let people put in motivational quotes in our Facebook group, and we don't let them share in articles, right? Which some people say, why would you not do that? And say, because that's not the parameters of our group. Our group is a think tank. It is a market research space for women to get answers they need and the support they need through questions to get answers. And that's why it's so wildly engaging. So you've got to have that parameter, those rules, right? And then we add in when we're talking about loyalty, then we have to add in the fact that they need to be able to connect with each other outside of you. So you need to provide things that allow people to connect together, right? Because then their loyalty isn't just to you as an expert, but their loyalty is to your ideas, right? And if you think about Batman, where it's like you can kill a man, but you can't kill this identity that everybody connects to, right? Everybody can be Batman kind of thing. That's that same thing from your brand. All of us consultants and service providers, we want to be the center, right? We're very much like, nobody can have the answer I have. Nobody can do the thing that I do. Like, I'm super special. And when you recognize that if you can perpetuate the right ideas and the right belief system within your brand, then you can create a sense of loyalty where people feel empowered to connect with each other, but they never forget you as being the person who is the impetus for that connection. And that creates this amazing sense of loyalty. And then the other part is that you're actually providing good content, which is probably what everybody who's listening is already doing. You got that part going. But because you don't have the loyalty engine based around the content you make, where you're making people feel like their voice matters, you're helping them connect outside of you just by perpetuating your ideas, and you're creating that safe space through the consistency of the brand you have, then you have a bunch of people that are selling things, but it's an uphill battle because it's not an engine that's running. It's you pushing the engine uphill as opposed to something that runs without you having to do a lot of effort.
Whew. That's some powerful stuff there. We've talked about community before. We've talked about trust and loyalty before, but never on that scale, never in depth like that. And I love that you just touched on that. So what comes after? If we are already creating strong content, and we're starting to develop our community, we're starting to become basically the expert inside of there. How do we transition that into revenue?
Yeah, well, so one, we have to, I believe you have to sell only a few things, right? So one is everybody's trying to sell way too much stuff. So you have to start limiting what you sell, which I know for some people are like, but I need to solve all of these problems, right? I read a quote recently that basically said, until someone is mocking you, like that people mock you for being known for something that you say, you haven't said it enough, right? So part of the problem with revenue is people are saying too many things and it's diluted. Like one of my favorite Bruce Lee quotes is he said something like, I'm not scared of the man who has tried 10,000 different kicks. I'm scared of the man who's done one kick 10,000 times. Right. And that's what we want is when you're talking about revenue, and that's that consistency that creates that trust, is you should have a finite number of ideas, of opinions that you repeat all the time. And you should have a finite number of things that you offer all the time. So you may have one thing that launches or something like that, but you have a specific idea, specific what you're known for that perpetuates. I'm a big believer in evergreen. I hate launching. Every time I launch something, my kids get sick. So like for the health of my children, I like to keep things evergreen. I also think you can't scale what you can't measure. So I want to be able to systematically make things better a little bit at a time. Like that's where the real power happens. So you have to do a finite number of opinions that you repeat all the time and a finite number of things that you offer, because one of the parts of that trust is familiarity, right? So you see a billboard for Domino's 15 different times in 15 different places, right? You don't think much of it. But when someone thinks pizza, you go, oh, you know what, Domino's. And the reason that you trust Domino's is because you've seen it enough times that your brain trusts that it's real. Right? So what we do is we hide our courses, we hide our content, we hide our stuff, and we don't tell anybody about it. We don't do what I call seeding, which is sort of in an email, you do an inline mention of something you do, or in the middle of a conversation, you'd be like, yeah, we talk about that in my program a lot. You don't tell anything about it. You just mention it, right? I say the Boss Mom Academy and the Vault are two main things. I say them all the time. So people aren't seeding it enough. So when they go to actually ask for the sale, people feel like you're, kind of sleazy. Like, what are you doing trying to sell me this thing? But if we actually talked about it enough in these different ways that aren't selling, but are just perpetuating the idea of exactly what we're doing, and there's different ways we can talk about, doing that very specifically, all of a sudden when we go to sell it actively, everybody's familiar with it. They're familiar with it and they go, oh, I've been doing that. Or like with me, my goal and like on my business goals, one of them is that at least once a month, someone needs to tell me that being in my program is on their bucket list, right? Like not just, oh, I'd like to join your program, but like I literally have you on a list that I'm saving so that I can give you a lot of money and work with you. Like you are on my set of things I want to do in this lifetime. Like that's what people want. So you've got to have the repetition. And then the one other thing on top of that is what we tend to do as entrepreneurs in the beginning, because we get super excited, is we tend to say different things to the same people over, so it's like, I've got this following, so I've got to tell them new things over and over and over, all these different new things. What you want to do is you want to say the same thing to different people, right? And you can even say the same thing to the same people, because just like how your kids have to practice the alphabet every single day for like a year in order to be able to say the alphabet, your audience, it needs to hear your exact point of view and exactly what you do and the exact tactic and the exact strategy like 10 or 15 times before it's even sunk in. And they need to know it so well that when somebody says something, when somebody, makes a reference to something, they're like, oh, you know what Dana always says? Dana says you need to say, you don't need to say you need to say the same thing to different people instead of different things to the same people, and they quote you. So if people don't know what your quotes are, then it's going to be hard to build that revenue because they don't know you enough, trust you enough to be familiar with what you're selling, so that when it comes time to sell, that they just know, of course I'm going to buy that. I've been waiting to buy that, or I'm just one tiny email away from you convincing me of that one objection I have. So then now all of a sudden I'm willing to dish out the cash.
You were just killing this interview.
I'm a Gemini, so I'm a talker. So
no, it's great. You just had
I'm sorry and you're welcome all at the same time.
These are the best interviews because normally, like when I ask a question, it's just you go off on a great tangent. It's a tangent, but it's everything I wanted out of the question I asked. So thank you for that. But it leads me because you kind of slipped in there. We can talk about how to talk about the same thing over and over, etc.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I've noticed is I'm going to put you in a box unintentionally, but I've seen you work with Amy Porterfield. Mm-hmm. We've done a podcast with John Lee Dumas and some other people, and a commonality between all of you is one, you have content everywhere, different mediums, and you all preach that, it's not the platform, it's how you show up on the platform. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, like, what your strategy has been, and it's probably changed over time. What is your actual strategy in terms of showing up appropriately on each platform with the same intention, saying the same thing, leading to the same outcome?
Okay. Well, so there's a couple things. One is, I think that we all may be on different platforms, but number one, we have one platform that we became known on first, right? So for anybody who's working to become six figures, you should have what I call focus milestones, which is you can't expand what you're doing until you've really owned one particular space or one particular thing, right? And that's really important because just like Pat Flynn, he's got his podcast gets, 30,000 downloads an episode. He's got this huge space, and he then 6 or 7 years later started a YouTube channel. But if anybody sees him now, they're like, well, he's got a YouTube channel and a Facebook group, but he didn't start that way, right? So when you see people, then they're on multiple places. The really smart, successful ones owned one space first and really expanded. So what you have to know is what the center is, and that's where, when you have limited time, like for me, that's Facebook groups, that's where you're going to spend your time. And then the second thing is you have to know how platforms function, right? So what actually works on different platforms. In Facebook, one of the best ways to get something to work from a group perspective are questions, right? Is you want to elicit, think of it like market research or a focus group. What do you want your community to tell you? How do you get answers from them? So questions is going to be the best thing. Stories in Facebook groups do not get you anywhere. However, questions over on Instagram, just as a set of questions, doesn't work as well. You need to have the story. People want more story, more motivation, more, of that, like pull at your heartstrings, right? And then over on YouTube, and they're going to want more of how-tos. They're going to want more step-by-step of something. And then over in a podcast, they're going to want more of a conversation, right? An actual, you can have solo shows, but usually people are like, I love when you're doing like what we're doing right now. We're having this, conversation. Although I feel like I'm talking a lot. So maybe it's more like an interview and less of a conversation. But here's the thing is you can take one idea, right? So we could talk about the, how do we get your audience to engage with you as one concept, right? Or how do we get your audience to trust you? Or how do we do one particular thing? Or let's say, how do you create a content calendar? That's a real like specific one, right? How do you create a content calendar? And then you can go, okay, well, because I know the function of each platform, I can take that one idea and I can, in a much shorter amount of time, say, okay, well, if I'm doing a content calendar, then I'm going to go into a Facebook group and I'm going to say, hey guys, what's the last piece of content that somebody posted that you could not help but comment on? Like, what is that? Or, hey, everybody, when, I'm having a hard time deciding what I'm going to do for this particular thing, what's your favorite podcast to listen to? Something like that, right? So it's something where you're asking a question. In Instagram, you're going to talk about how you've been planning out your content calendar, like behind the scenes of you while you're writing your content calendar. And that's what your stories and everything's about. On YouTube, you're going to actually do a video that walks through the exact steps of how to make that content calendar, right? And then on the podcast, you're going to actually interview and talk to somebody who has an amazing content strategy that you want to understand how they do it. So what it is it's that people are smart about understanding how to get the best traction on one place so they can take one idea, and it's not making one piece of content and throwing it everywhere. It's about taking one piece of content and pulling it in the right kind of ways. It just moves it over a little bit so that you can, you're not creating a bunch of extra work for yourself, but you can perpetuate the same idea in the way that a platform works best, so that it all works together. And then you get that congruency, that repetition of brand so that people feel that consistency, and that's where that trust builds.
Love that answer. Yeah, I think that's a common misconception because people who have coined content distribution, it often shows up as you should take one piece of content and just distribute it all over everywhere. And now you are playing the SEO game, and it's more long-term instead of making each piece of content specific to what people are actually on that platform looking for. Love
yeah,
it.
and don't do too much. That's the thing is this is what I say. It's from a dating analogy, like it's like trying to date 3 girls or guys at once, right? And it's funny because I'll have women be like, dating one guy sounds like too much, All the moms are like, I just want to, go off to a cabin by myself for a weekend and pee by myself, So it's like it depends on who you are, but the dating multiple people at once is exhausting because you have to know what they like and don't like and deal with their emotional baggage of whatever that is. It's the same thing with trying to put content all over the place and market, which most people make content 80% of the time and market 20% of the time. You should be marketing 80% of the time and creating content 20% of the time, right? So the problem with siphoning off content and just distributing it everywhere is that now when somebody asks, where should I go, that you're like, oh, well, you could go here, 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 or here. And you actually get less SEO because what you want is bigger numbers going to one place. And so I would rather you create one thing, put it on the platform where that one thing can get the most traction, and then market the crap out of it as much as humanly possible. I know companies that are sending ads to a blog post they did 3 years ago because it still works for them. So SEO isn't about being on all the platforms. SEO is about driving traffic to one place and getting everybody to love that one place. So don't dilute your content too much until you start expanding.
What do you think is the most, well, how do I want to ask this? What do you think you have taught your moms to do in a specific niche the most? Is it coaching? Is it consulting? Is it building a course?
Really, the thing that we teach them the most is how to sell. And that's because most people that start businesses are not salespeople, right? In fact, part of why most people don't make money online is because they don't know how to ask the right way to get people to say yes, right? So you have a lot of courses that are created that never sell. You have a lot of consulting where they never get business. You have a lot of, people that just can't bring themselves to do the work that needs to be done to get somebody on the phone and get them to buy something from them. So really what we help most people with is how to actually sell, how to actually convert somebody into a client, both online and over the phone, by saying the right things. And the interesting thing is the things that you're going to say in those instances are also the things that are on your sales pages and in your posts and in your emails. Like, it's all based around the same thing. So if you don't know how to say the right things, what I tell people is if you can't prioritize the problem you are solving so much that they feel like they need to solve it right now, then it's going to be very hard to grow your business, because there's too many other things vying for their attention. Like, you have to learn how to prioritize the problem. And that's the key. And so that's usually what we end up having to teach everybody.
Very interesting. It's actually very common.
Super common. Super common. Yeah. No, I mean, why do you think sales reps make as much money as they do? Because selling is a nuance. It's an art form. But it is learnable. It's a skill, y'all. I know plenty of introverts that are amazing salespeople. It's totally just like anything else. Like, we're not asking you to, write a symphony. Like, learning how to sell is a natural skill that everybody is born with. We are born to persuade people. It is a birthright of us all. So all you have to do is put in a little bit of the work to learn the actual skill, and you can be an amazing salesperson for your own business. And nobody cares about the success of your business like you do. Don't expect anybody to work hard when it comes down to it. Don't expect anybody to drop everything in their life for you, for your business. Don't do it. Like, you are the only one that's going to care as much as you should about growing your business. So if you're not 100% in, then success is going to be tough.
Ooh, boy, hitting some nerves on that one.
Yeah, we got to commit, man. That's the thing. Yeah, you can't dabble. There are no six-figure dabblers. I mean, there may be some that just hit on some random thing that we're all jealous about, but
we're talking about longevity here.
Yeah.
This is not a podcast for quick success. We want to provide value so that people can maintain that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I feel like I could talk to you all day. This has been great. What's next for you and Boss Mom?
Yeah, so we are we've been working on what we're calling the Boss Mom method. So it's the exact formula, basically the habits of boss moms in order to run a business that supports you, that doesn't drain you. And I think really for any entrepreneur, in my opinion, but especially for the entrepreneur that has two priorities that they don't want to give up. Like, everybody says that, what did I hear the other day? That the word priority is actually from the old Greek, and it meant to come first. What comes first? And there was no plural. There was no priorities. The priority was the only word. What is priority? And we've pluralized it since. But as a parent and an entrepreneur, there's that juxtaposition of two things that are really important to you. And sometimes one's more and sometimes the other is more. But that's the challenge we come against, is we need to be able to run both and care about both and not feel guilty about caring about both. So any parent, I think, we're building the exact formula of how you should run your business so that your business doesn't run you.
Boom.
Yeah.
I want to ask you some questions to get to know you a little bit better.
Okay.
They're going to be rapid fire.
Fun way of asking that.
They're usually rapid fire. I don't foresee that happening with this conversation.
Oh, I can go fast. I can keep it short. I promise.
Only if you want to. I'm not forcing you. What is one non-negotiable habit you implement every day?
Okay, this is going to sound totally weird. I shave my legs. I'm going to tell you why. This is not like I guess it's a woman thing because guys don't shave their legs. Maybe be shaving your face. I don't know. But I realized that what I would do is I would care about work so much that I would get up, even if I had to take the kids to school or something like that. I would immediately jump into the thing. So I'd get out of bed, I'd, open my computer, I'd open my phone, I'd do the thing, I'd dive right in, and I go, well, I'll get to later in the afternoon, I'll shower and I'll look fine because I don't have to look nice in order to be smart, which is very true. You don't have to look nice to be smart, y'all. However, when I had a client who has it's called the All Girls Shave Club. It's like the shave club for women, right? Where they mail it to your house. And I did this 30-day challenge to shave my legs every day for 30 days. And I'd had 2 babies. Both my kids were under 4, and I did this. And what I noticed is that when I shaved my legs, it was a trigger. And when I got out of the shower I would dry my hair, I would put something nice on, and then my day wasn't rushed. And I'm way more focused and productive when I don't feel rushed. I make better decisions when I don't feel rushed. And all of a sudden, that little bit, I don't even call it self-care. I just call it, I call it a trigger, because that's really what it is. Whatever your trigger is, find that one thing. And now me shaving every morning is non-negotiable, because I know it sets off a chain reaction in my day that makes me more effective at everything I do, because I've set the stage for the kind of life I want to live, the kind of life where I wake up and I take care of me first, and then I move into the things that I need to do. And I'm actually better at those things, including parenting, including being a boss, including being an entrepreneur, writing content, being social, doing all of those things. So just find your trigger.
What does the rest of your day look like? Do you have time blocking? Is it day time blocking, week time blocking?
I have sort of themes in my day. So I used to be really stressed out on Sunday because I'd see all these things that didn't get done the week before. And then I would want to, I'd on Monday, I'd have all these meetings. So then I'd have to get them done on Sunday. Otherwise, the whole week was stressful. So about a year and a half ago, I made it so I have no meetings on Monday. The only thing I have is I have my meeting with my operations director Monday morning to set the tone for the week. And that's the only meeting I have. So on Sundays, I can completely enjoy my Sunday, and unless it's a conscious thing I want to do for my business. And then that way on Monday morning, I know I have the whole day to plan, write content, do whatever it is, or not do anything, depending on, what we're doing in the business. Tuesdays are, I do the morning is client calls, and then the afternoon is usually open. And then but it's open in case like this, I need to do an interview or something like that. And then Wednesdays and Thursdays are my meeting days. So usually Wednesday, but I'm always done at 3. I generally don't ever do anything at 3, except for right at this very moment, I'm doing a collaboration with somebody in Australia. And the best time is for me to do lives with them at 4. And I'm like, oh, lives at 4. It's so late. And then Fridays I leave completely open. So I have no meetings on Fridays, and that's either a time when I network. So I like to network, I like to prospect, or I like to just go out and have lunch with friends, or I like to not do anything. So it just depends on where we're at. And usually you can find me almost every day of the week, Monday through Friday, at about 3:34 for about an hour and a half, having happy hour. So I like a glass of wine and a little snack, and I get some work done, make sure things are taken care of, talk with my team about things that need to be reviewed. And before I go get the kids, or if I don't have the kids, I do something else. So that for me, because I don't really drink at night because I have 2 children under the age of 6, that's my little me time to wind down, let the day kind of wash over me a little bit, bless and release a little bit, so that I can actually be present for my kids, my family, or my friends.
Wow. We're kind of going off my usual script right now, but I have to ask.
Oh, are we?
Because it's usually just boom, boom, boom. I knew that wasn't going to happen. Because I'm curious.
Yeah.
You said you network on Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
Is that in-person networking?
It's a little bit of both. I have a policy, and actually I'm glad you asked that, because anybody who's working to build a 6-figure business, especially if you're in coaching, consulting, I think this should be a non-negotiable for you. Once a week, so I have 2 things that have to happen every single week. Once a week, I need to personally connect with somebody who is behind me, right? And that I do that naturally now because I have a lot of emails that go out and I'm on my community. So my goal is every week somebody has to message, I have to have a conversation where somebody says that's exactly what I needed to hear. Thank goodness you're in my life. And then I have to have 1 conversation a week with somebody who is ahead of me, right? So that I can aspire to be something. And those 2 things are required every single week. And I think those 2 things keep me grounded from not thinking I'm too amazing, because I've still got places to go, but making me feel like I'm actually valuable and worthy of what I'm doing, and an expert in what I'm doing, because I'm actually being impactful for somebody. So I would highly recommend that. So yeah, on Fridays, it depends what I'm doing, but a lot of times I'll go and have lunch with somebody, a colleague, somebody who's doing something amazing that I haven't done, or find somebody in my community and go do a meetup or something like that. Or I will make sure I'm getting on a call or an interview or something where I'm getting that. And Friday's usually my day of, if I haven't gotten one of those done, I will proactively make sure I do. But I also know what my business goals are. So I know in my brain what I want for the next 12 months, 2, 3, 5 years. And so I'm sort of future casting and looking and going, okay, who do I need to know? What relationship do I need to start in order to get that ball rolling? And Fridays are my good day to really think about it and find those people.
Very cool. I wouldn't have expected you to say that. I'm always curious if people with big communities do that, because you just have a central place where networking happens naturally. So super cool to know that you still proactively do that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And you just can't beat seeing people in person. Like we just need it. Yes, you can get amazing connection online, but you got to hug somebody in real life every once in a while. That's important stuff.
Yeah, I love that. What is one book you wish everyone in the world would read?
Oh, I love this question because my answer is always The Five Love Languages. It's the best business book around. And everybody's like, wait a second, Dana, that's a relationship book. And I'm like, yeah, but if you could understand your client's love language, which is just to say, understanding how they feel valued, if you can understand your team members' love language, if you can understand the love language of your competitors, of your collaborators, of your mentors, all of a sudden you understand how to speak that love language and you can get so much more of what you want and so much more connection and that loyalty we were talking about from all spectrums of people. It is one of the most valuable skills to have, to understand how people feel valued. And that book is the simplest way to understand it.
What's your love language?
Mine is physical touch and words of affirmation, which is why somebody has to tell me that I'm exactly what they needed to hear. And I joke that every time I have an event, that if in marketing people have to experience you in some way 7 to 10 times, I'd say then expect for me to touch you at least 7 to 10 times. I'm the person that when I see you, I have my hand on your shoulder, or some girl, I'll fix your hair. Like I'm a very physically person. And it's so funny because at events, people will come up to me and they'll be like, Dana, you only touched me 3 times. Could I get like a 5-second hug? I'm like, yeah, bring it in, lady. Let's get this going. And then I'll joke. I'll be like, just, you can't make it 10 seconds because they've done studies that says if you hug somebody for 10 seconds or more, you want to make out with them. So, we'll keep it to 5 and we'll keep it clean here, ladies. Yeah. But it's, yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like I need to hug people. Like I'm an extrovert, so I need to physically be around people, but I also need people to tell me that I'm special. I need people to tell me I'm doing a good job, and that's really important to me. So I've created a community that does that. I don't care about gifts. I don't care really about quality time. We could spend 5 minutes together, but if I feel like it was the best 5 minutes ever, that's enough. In fact, I don't like wasting time. I can get bored really easily. So if our friendship no longer serves each other, then I want to like bless and release you and say, go find a friend that you're going to get what you want out of them, kind of thing. So yeah. And I realize who I want to hang out with. And then I understand my team and my community and the people in my group so that I can serve those people best. Like I know the person who does my tech, like how to make her feel loved, because she's words of affirmations too, right? Versus someone else on my team who's quality time. And I can say, you know what, let's get on a phone for an hour and talk about the future of your business and what you're trying to do. And that's how she's going to feel loved, versus somebody else on my team that I just need to send them a mug that says something, like a little gift, because that's how they feel loved. I'm telling you, man, when you understand how people feel valued and you can speak in the simplest of ways to that part of them, they light up. And it usually doesn't take much. That's the great part about it.
Beautiful. Definitely something I'm gonna have to study more. Incredible. On what do you like to spend your time and money outside of your business? I know you have kids, so probably related to that, but what about yourself?
Well, I'm an experiential person, so I don't like a lot of stuff. My parents were kind of bohemian growing up. We moved a lot. We didn't have a lot of things. And so I'm not really a things person, but I'm an experience person. So I spend my money on, like, I learned how to horseback, well, badly, but I've tried to learn how to horseback ride, taken archery lessons and fencing lessons and rock climbing and all, travel and all these different things where I can just experience stuff. So I like to spend my money on experiences. And then generally, if I'm going to spend my money on things, it's on things that allow me to create, like I will spend more money for my kids on something that helps us build a fort or do these cool experiments than I would on the things that they can't creatively play with, that kind of thing. And then I like shoes. but I don't spend a lot of money on shoes. Everybody should know. I'm not like, I can't spend more than like $150 on a pair of shoes. So I can't spend too much money, but I do like rewarding myself with shoes because they're the only thing that you like can't grow out of. And they just make you feel like a lady, you know?
I love the way you just like put things. That's so funny. Um, more on the business side.
Yeah.
What have you seen has been like the most commonly used or needed like tool or software for people trying to get to six figures?
Oh gosh. Yeah, I mean, really it's going to be your email system. I was just having a conversation with this about I call her my girl Friday. She's like my all things tech, branding, everything like that. And and we were having this conversation, which is like, gosh, it's hard when someone says, Dano, what do I build my sales pages and my email sits on? Like, what tool do I use? And we're like, oh gosh, it kind of depends on where you're at in your business. I think that's one of the hardest tools to figure out what you need, because you need a sales funnel. Anybody who tells you don't need a sales funnel is using what we call it the common enemy tactic. Writing is my background, journalism is my background. The common enemy tactic is find something you don't want to do, tell you don't have to do it so that you feel all warm and fuzzy about it, and then tell you why their thing solves the problem and doesn't make you do the thing you don't want. So all the people that don't want to build sales funnels, someone is going to tell you, well, you don't have to have a business. And you're like, thank goodness, so that they can tell you whatever, sell you whatever their alternative is. Frank Kern does the common enemy so brilliantly. I've reviewed some of his funnels before and been like, it's great, but you need one. So you have to have something that can create a page for you that is a lead generating page, an email opt-in page that allows you to have a thank you page, and because your thank you pages are your highest converting pages and that I can see, and a thank you page that allows you to either sell somebody into a call or sell somebody into a low priced product, right? And so if you don't have something that does those two things and then enters them into an email list where you can, based on tags and rules, so don't use MailChimp or something like that. You want to use the thing like ConvertKit. There's some other things too. Like that's the thing where you can now, based on what the actions they take, send them down different nurture paths. If you don't have something like that, it's really hard to create a six-figure business unless your entire plan is just to organically outreach, get people on calls and sell them that way, but you'll get burnt out. You got to have the thing that gives you the sales, at least a 2-page sales funnel.
I love it. My personal question for you, before we wrap up here, how do men learn from you? How do they get involved with your
same way women learn from me?
You don't have men in your Boss Moms group.
We actually have the Boss Dad brand. We have a Boss Dad podcast. Yeah, we launched it last year. Funny, my one-on-one clients, we actually do have dads, or we do have men just in general, some in the Boss Mom community. We do pop-up groups. So like right now we have the Map Your Course Idea pop-up group. So we've been testing out and having really good success with pop-up groups. That's a whole different conversation we could have. So they're there, but I usually get a lot of one-on-one clients are men. And then a lot, I have the Boss Dad podcast, so we bring them on there. So what I teach is not mutually inclusive to women, or mutually exclusive, I guess, to women. It is, that Boss Mom's just the brand that I started in the audience that I'm choosing to speak to. But everything I've said today is relevant to men, except for maybe like the heels making you feel like a lady.
I don't know. Some men may be into that.
That's true.
It's beautiful. Dana, thank you so much for just your light. You've been amazing to talk to. I appreciate the wisdom you provided. How do men and women get involved with what you got going on? Because you're always creating. You're on you said your 4th book?
This will be my 4th book. Yeah, and Climb Your Own Ladder is not Boss Mom branded, so all men can go and get it. I'd like to think it's a pretty snazzy book. And so we have the Boss Mom podcast. We actually, right when we're recording this, are just on the verge of hitting 1 million downloads, which is amazing. It's taken way too long for that to happen, but I'm happy it did. Boss Dad podcast is amazing, but boss-mom.com is our website, and that gives you all of our resources. All our free things that you can get, shows you how to get involved with the community, shows you how to get in contact with me, all that kind of good stuff. And then Dana at boss-mom.com. That's my personal email. Somebody else manages it for me. But I get anything that's relevant to you want to have a conversation with me, gets to me, and gets a response. So if you have a specific question, just ask me.
Amazing. Not many people offer that. I appreciate that. And I know that the listeners will appreciate that.
Pat Flynn did that. And when I was chatting with him, and it stops it from being 1 million different ways that somebody can connect with you. And then I have somebody who is the one who siphons everything off and decides where it goes.
Love it. Do you have any last words of advice for the people listening?
Yeah, I would say that when you're 90% done, you're halfway there is one of my favorite quotes, mainly because it's always 100% true. So for everybody, when you feel like that thing you made or that thing you're trying to do just isn't working, I guarantee you're 10% away from it exploding and being amazing. And if you just recognize that, then find somebody to work through the last 10%, find an accountability partner, find somebody, because that last 10% is the percentage that most people that fail just don't finish. So if you want to be a 6-figure earner, then recognize that 90% done means halfway there, and then find a way to finish that 10%, and success will be yours.
Beautiful. I will put all of the links and everything to where people can find you in the show notes. Again, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Thank you for your time, and just thank you for being you.
No, thanks for having me. It's been a blast.
Absolutely. All right, guys. See you next week for another episode of the 6-Figure Roadmap. Cheers.